It's no surprise that in a game as fiercely competitive as football, people are going to try newer and fancier ways to get ahead of the competition. And sometimes that involves bending the rules. From tricks that were so shocking they got a player like Ronaldinho hated worldwide, to plays that came straight from street football. Here are 5 football tricks that have been permanently banned from the game of football. Carillon Seal Dribble. Now, while tricks are known to get players suspended or worse, even fired, there's one particular trick that became the reason one very famous player got introduced to the football world in the first place. That's right, I'm talking about Carillon and his notorious dribble. You see, while dribbling was nothing new, at the time it was considered to be little more than a cheap trick you'd see on talent shows or on YouTube. However, one particular player from Brazil was taking it a step further. This was none other than Carillon Souza, and he would soon go on to become a football sensation because of his uncanny ability to bounce a football on his head while running past opponents. His ability was so good, in fact, that in just a few months he had multiple major clubs interested in signing him up based on it. But those are the clubs, by comparison, the other players were less enthusiastic about and thought the play was even impractical. But that all changed when Carillon actually applied the play in a match between Atlético Mineiro versus Cruzeiro in 2007 and used it to win a game against his opponents. As you can imagine, the play was immediately harshly criticized by all other players for being unfair and a loophole, and, unfortunately for Carillon and others like him, FIFA ended up agreeing with everyone else. So after a brief tenure as the most impressive play out there, the seal dribble was retired, and today anyone who tries the play or other versions of it are liable to get a warning, a yellow card, or in some cases even a red card. Funnily enough, this would not be the only time that heading was used to circumvent rules, as demonstrated by the second trick, the back passing loophole. It's common knowledge that in any kind of legit football game, the keeper's not allowed to catch the ball when passed by another player. However, sometime during the development of professional playing, some guys figured out a way around that. You see, while the rules forbid kicking the ball to the keeper with the intent of him catching it, they don't say anything about passing the ball from mid-air. As you can imagine, this soon led to a whole slew of strategies involved chest, knee, or head passes to the keeper, all collectively called back passing. And well, chaos started to ensue at every single game. This obviously enraged the officials, who didn't waste any time in amending their existing rules to the effect of banning all intentional passes to the keeper regardless of the methodology used, and quote, FIFA back pass rules do not allow a goalkeeper to pick up or catch a deliberate back pass. The officials will not always allow a player to use a flick or kick technique to chest, knee, or head the ball back to the keeper. Referees will penalize any deceitful circumvention of the rule, and an indirect free kick will be awarded even if the goalkeeper does not actually touch the ball. And as a result, the strategy went away as quickly as it had spread. Knee trapping. Anyone who has played true street football should be pretty familiar with a doozy of a trick. The actual strategy is pretty simple and is described perfectly by the name. As everyone knows, touching the ball in any way is completely illegal for field players. However, many people assume that only applies to the hands. So, a ton of players decided that they'd simply use their knees instead. This, understandably, was not easy to do, so for most street games, it actually made the game more interesting instead of making it less competitive. And that logic actually made its way to the leagues as well, where for a brief time, the play would actually find decent fan approval. But unfortunately, that kind of play in the league did end up hampering good games, so before long, the officials decided to retire the move as referees started assigning yellow cards to anyone who even came close to using it. But here's the thing, the people who were used to doing the knee trapping thing, they started doing that on their own, and after a while, with a few additions, they managed to create a completely new game of it now known as kickball. So yeah, not every ban has bad consequences. Another interesting thing about this trick, this wasn't the only time that players would try to loophole this set of rules, as another notorious trick is none other than the shirt trap. Now, after officials had made it illegal to carry a ball with any kind of touch, most people thought it was the end of illegal forms of carrying. But, once again, the world of people of street football came through with another wild plan. You see, these folks decided that if touch is not allowed, well, why you skin in the first place. That's right, their loophole was to use an accessory, in this case a shirt, to carry the ball instead of their hands or feet. And yes, that should have been quite easy to notice as illegal, but come on, even the guts to suggest such a move deserves some applause. I mean, just imagine a real-world match where somebody like Ronaldo pulls out this wild move. Now, I would pay to see that match. Sadly, however, this play didn't catch on for long enough to reach any prominent games, not that anyone expected it to, and was soon enough banned, further ensuring it won't reach any games in the future. Now, the last play on this list is actually rather clever, requires a ton of skill, and would not have been that big of a deal except for the fact that it actually had the potential to injure multiple players on the field. That's right, I'm talking about the infamous head stall. As the name suggests, this move involves a player balancing the ball on their head as they try to pass the ball, or, as people who wanted to justify it would say, it's nothing more than a very extended head pass. But unlike some of the other plays on this list, this one actually stayed active for a while for a few simple reasons. First, it wasn't easy enough for many players to learn it, and more importantly, it wasn't practical enough to abuse it too often. That is, until Ronaldinho came on the scene. Hailing from Brazil with a passion for street football, Ronaldinho didn't waste any time on making a name for himself, and that was thanks in no small part to his exceptional ability with the head stall. Not only had he managed to bring the play to a club as famous as Barcelona, but he brought the move into mainstream football, and for a while it looked like the move might actually become a staple of regular football play. That is, until, as they so often do, the officials decided that the move was simply too fun to continue. I'm lying actually. Their reasoning was actually a lot more understandable. You see, the main problem with the head stall was not that it was too powerful, it was the fact that the move was, simply put, an invitation to injury. Not only was the player not able to see where he was going when performing the stand, but due to the balancing position, a simple bump could cause a powerful fall. Add that to the neck position and the fact that players were simply too scared to interact with the head staller for fear of injuring them, it meant that as fun as the head stall was, it made football a whole lot less fun. So eventually, the move started to feel a lot less cool and a lot more unnecessarily showy. So sure, that means that it technically isn't illegal. It's now frowned upon by most players and fans these days, which is a shame because it popularized someone who was one of the coolest players to have ever lived. And that covers our list of football tricks that were so OP that they had to be banned. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and if you did, be sure to like and subscribe for more. Click on the videos on your screen right now.